Gaming peripherals, mice, keyboards, headphones, headsets, these are things that can be so important, but in 2019, there is also so much fluff out there and marketing jargon. Me personally, I put this stuff through its paces, and if it ends up going through the paces and I like it, then it stays on the desk. And right here from Aorus, I've got their M2 and M5 gaming mice. And the thing is, they asked me to take a look at it because they sent, I think, some mice into Rocket Jump, and he thought it wasn't even worthy of plugging in. But good old tech, yes, I like to give something a chance, and they were really saying, look, we're so impressed with this stuff, we really want you to take a look at it. So we're gonna take a look at these new mice, as well as their new keyboards, the K7 and K9, and their headset, the H5, and just give it to you guys straight and let you know if Aorus should be a serious consideration if you're looking for peripherals. Now, the first thing we're going to look at are the gaming mice. These are easily the most important peripheral that you should be considering. These are seriously make and break when it comes to doing things. For my instance, doing video editing, 4K video editing, I need something that's accurate, fast, and I can snap quickly with a fingertip grip. If you're an FPS player, then palm grip mice usually gain popularity here for being able to get pinpoint accuracy. So you need to have the goods in these mice ready to go. So here in the studio, I currently mainly use Logitech mice. I've got a G402 for FPS games, and then when I use my video editing and also RTS and MOBA, I use a G203, I think in Australia it's called the G102. They're both fingertip or palm grip mice. So after using the Aorus M2, we're gonna get straight into the details. This is such a love and hate, not love or hate, it's love and hate relationship with this mouse, because there's things that they've done so well. For starters, it weighs in at 80 grams versus 86 on the G102. So the weight is really good. I'm not gonna say one is better than the other. I like using both these mice. The switches, they've used Omron all round, so it does have a very high actuation point, which is great for gaming. They've also got an ambidextrous design with 2 buttons on the left, 2 buttons on the right, and the positioning of the buttons is really good. The scroll wheel is actually very nice. However, it is a little bit loose to the point where if you wanted to reliably use this middle click as a button, you'd cause yourself slipping up and down with the scroll wheel. DPI change has 4 levels, and the feet are solid on a soft style mouse pad. And the cable itself is very lightweight. It's not gonna get in the way of anything you do. And it has a Pixart PA3327 sensor. And the best thing yet is it comes in at 39 Aussie dollars, or in the US, 30 USD. So it's very well positioned against the Logitech G102. However, besides the good points, the baddest point about this mouse is the software. It just lets it down so much. And it's not a problem. Like, if you're gonna go out and get a gaming mouse and just play games, this thing is gonna be excellent. But moving into the software, there's things like typos that are apparent. There's 4 levels of DPI that you can't even take off any of those levels of DPI. I personally only like having 2 levels of DPI. One for very slow, like sniping in FPS, another for 900. This is the sweet spot. On this mouse, I have 900 DPI too. They feel very similar. However, I did notice with the Pixart sensor itself, there is a slight amount of smoothing, and it kind of was annoying for 4K video editing, which is what I use this mouse for. It's the best mouse I've used yet. So if anything, I'd say the Logitech sensor, as opposed to the Pixart 3327, is actually a superior sensor in this mouse. And other than that, it's very nice. The smoothing can help out when you're playing FPS games. It was good for Dota 2 as well. So since it is a gaming mouse, it's doing very well at gaming. The input latency as well is extremely well. When I'm using the PK response test, testing against the Logitech, which we already know the Logitech are pretty much near 0 latency in terms of input lag, this is scoring pretty much exactly the same. So they've done a great job of everything involved on the hardware level. I just think the software side at the moment is letting this mouse down. So I'd like to see them overhaul their software. But let's move over now straight to this one right here. This is the M5, which is actually a little bit more expensive. It's coming in at 79 Aussie dollars, so it's pretty much double the price of the M2. And it's also coming in the US at 70 USD. So this has got more RGB bling. It's got that palm grip style shape to it, and it does weigh in at roughly 120 grams, so you can add weights to it if you like. And I really did like the shape of what they've done with this. The curvatures of the buttons at the end, it is a fantastic shape. And also the sensor, I like it a lot better than the M2. Even though it's still a Pixart, it's a Pixart 3389, I didn't notice the same smoothing that the M2 had. So I really like this in FPS. And if you've got a large hand and you like a palm grip, this is really gonna do well. The input latency, like the M2, is very low. It's a very comfortable mouse. However, it is designed for right hands. You do have 2 buttons on the side. So you do get 2 extra buttons on the M2 as opposed to the M5. And the cable is very lightweight and the scroll wheel feels similar to that of the M2, so it won't be a problem. The little rattle that Zai talked about in his video, I think that's just to do with the scroll wheel being loose in terms of the way it's designed. I don't think it's an actual problem itself. If anything, the Corsair Dark Core Pro, which is like one of the most expensive mice out there, still has that same little rattle in it, so it's nothing to worry about. It's just the design feature of the scroll wheel itself. In the software, this has the ability to control the lift-off distance. I do like to leave this on high. When I put it on the lowest setting, I started even having problems tracking right close down to the mouse pad. One thing about the software too, since I did plug both of these in, once I plugged the M2 in, I lost the ability to change the lift-off distance on this M5. So again, coming back to that software, it does need an overhaul in how it's designed. It's really letting both these mice down because they are a fantastic design. Everything, high actuation points, low input latency, great shape. In the case of the M5, really good sensor. And in the case of the M2, I'd like to see an improved sensor, improved software, and Aorus will have a very competitive mouse lineup on their hands. So next up here, we've got the AMP500, their mousepad, as well as their H5 gaming headset. Now the mousepad straight away is what they call a hybrid mousepad. So it's sort of like a mixture between a cloth surface and a hard type surface. And to be fair, it was sort of like, I think it was kind of hit or miss depending on the mouse. For instance, the M2, it just sort of had too much friction. So I really didn't like it with that mouse. But then the M5 and also the G102, for example, they went really nicely on this mouse pad. And then, of course, the G402 just had too much friction as well. So it's kind of like this mouse pad, I still prefer my cloth. This one here is still kind of, I'm not really digging that too much. But maybe if it's something that you have been longing for in terms of a hybrid mousepad, it might be for you. The headset itself has RGB in it, which I'm not a big fan of because it does add to the cost, but I guess if you want to customize everything you do, it's there. But the actual quality and comfort of it was pretty good up until you wear it for a few hours. And then sort of like the hard base inside the ear cup here starts digging into your ear. So I did find it very comfortable at first, very lightweight, and then started digging into my ears. But to move on to the sound quality, you've got a 3.5mm analog jack, so one for your mic, one for your audio out, and the bass was very decent for these headphones, as well as the treble being very clear. So they are a nice gaming headset. They do give you good 3D imaging, and we used it with the Mayflower DAC amp, and I could hear enemies in games very easy.
So now, as for the microphone and the headset, I knew a guy called Tim, and he actually wanted to change his name to Tin. And then I asked him, why would you want to change your name to Tin? And he said, well, I was thinking about buying the Gigabyte Aorus H5 headset, and I didn't know if it'd be tinny in advance, so if it was tinny, my name would be Tin, and then we'd have some synergy going on between the headset and myself. And I said to him, well, perhaps you should wait for this microphone test and see if there is actually tin inside that microphone.
As for the pricing, Aorus are asking 75 USD or 109 Aussie dollars GST inclusive for this headset, and I think at this price, there's better options out there. So if you get this on sale, and you want something that's reliable for gaming, that's going to be good. But I feel at the moment there are some better options out there for the money. Now, as for typing on the K9, I was really blown away by this keyboard. It was very easy, very smooth, nice to type on. Of course, I do like the blue switches they've used, and you guys hear it now. However, they aren't Cherry MX blues. In the case of the K7, they are actually using Cherry MX switches, but with this, they've decided to go with the K9 for a switch called Flare Tech, and this enables you to actually not only remove the keycaps, which they've used PBT keycaps on the K9, which is very nice, but they're actually allowing you to take out the switch altogether and change it for a different type of switch if you wish to. So if you don't like the blues, you can change them over to reds. And with this K9 in particular, they include 9 extra linear switches with the different keycaps, orange keycaps, that you can change over on the WAS keys. So if you don't like the noise of the blues at night, for example, and all you're doing is gaming, you can change them over to a linear key and keep the noise down. But in terms of the noise on these blue switches from FlareTech themselves, I noticed they are a little bit quieter than a typical Cherry MX Blue. And on top of that, the actuation points on both the linear and the blue switches they've used here are very high. So I was playing Dota 2 and I was surprised this thing was reacting very quickly. Now the funny thing is about the FlareTech switches, they are actually an optical switch. And so with that, they technically have analog input if the game or said application could support that. And so if you press it a little bit down, you can slowly walk. If you press it all the way down, you can run, for example. Though I didn't really come into anything that I could use these analog switches with, but they are optical, so they will apparently have double the lifespan of 100 million clicks versus a Cherry MX, which has 50 million, for example. But even then, I mean, I think I'd be dead before I clicked a switch 50 million times. And then the last of the products we got here from Aorus to check out is the K7, which is a little bit of a step down from the K9, not just in price, but also they're using ABS caps as opposed to PBT. And this time around, we got a linear switch in here in Cherry MX Red, and the dampening effect is gone on this keyboard as opposed to the K9, where even though it had the blue, which is a different switch, did feel like it had the dampening effect at the bottom of the key presses. As you see here, we've got a silver and black tone as opposed to the other one, which had the black and black. This here is still missing the media, volume change and mute keys, which I'd love to see them include on these keyboards. And as for the pricing, the K7 is coming in at 149 Aussie dollars and 130 USD. For the K9, it's 140 USD. And in Australia, 179 Aussie dollars. So for a PBT keyboard, I think the K9 is pretty good. The K7 is sort of right in there. It's got RGB control, but there's still some other keyboards out there that offer the same things for the same price. So I was really liking the K9 with its extra feature set. I'd just love to see them improve the software and the media keys, and they'd have an absolute winner of a keyboard on their hands. So now we're at conclusion time with the Aorus peripherals. And I gotta say, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, some of these products are impressive, but they just miss out on those minor details. And I think I don't know if this is Aorus's or Gigabyte's first go at sort of going deep into peripherals, but if it is, they've done a very good job. The best product that came out of today's review is the M5. And now, Zai, I know if you're watching this, dude, you've got to plug this thing in. It's actually very good to the point where the video editor here, Yusuf, he's a palm gripper and he's got a pretty big hand, and he uses the G402, well, should I say, was using the G402. He's now switching to this. He loves the mouse that much that he wants to use this as his main daily driver. When I checked it out, played some FPS with this thing, it had a really good sense of the shape is amazing. I like everything on this mouse on a hardware level. When we're looking at the software, of course, that's the Achilles heel with Aorus and all the peripherals here today. I'd like to see them improve their software, things like taking out a certain amount of DPI levels, because I only need 2 of them in my mouse. Making the software work flawlessly, fixing typos, making things work correctly, like the lift-off distance. But you can, in the software, still change the necessities, like the DPI levels, and you can change them on horizontal and vertical, and you can change the lift-off distance, as well as changing the frequency, which you'd either want it at either 500 or 1000 hertz. Me personally, I use it at 500 hertz. Now, if you do want more in-depth reviews on mice and peripherals, then I do recommend heading over to my good friend Zai's channel, Rocket Jump Ninja. He does very in-depth reviews on peripherals. Me personally, I do know what I want from peripherals, but I may miss some details out. So if I do, make sure you guys let us know in the comments section below. But this is the M2 here. Now this one is so close to being an absolute victory as well, except the sensor for me personally, that PixArt sensor they're using inside this, just had that noticeable smoothing on it, which affected me from choosing it over the Logitech. I think the shape and the extra buttons on the right-hand side, as well as the Omron switches and the actuation points on both these mice, making them absolute winners. but this one here, the sensor is still inferior to that G102. So if Aorus can improve the sensor on this, then they would have an absolute winner on their hands for, I guess, fingertip grippers. But if you like a bit of smoothing and you just want to game on this thing, and that's all you want to do since it is a gaming mouse, then yeah, I can recommend this one too. And then we'll go over the K9, which we took a look at before. Great keyboard, just needs media keys. And then the K7, that is a solid option as well. But again, both those keyboards need that overhauled software, and then they would be really good too. Then the mousepad and the headset, they just really didn't do much for me personally. If that's your kind of thing and you're into that, then maybe you might want to check it out. But me personally, I just think there's better mouse pads out there. There's also better headsets. So I'd like to see Aorus drop the price of that headset and do away with RGB. It doesn't need to be on everything, and even especially on a headset. Other than that, the speakers on them are really good. And so just focus on from the ground up the speakers and get them right, the weight and the shape and everything on that, and you'll have a winner in terms of the headset. Then the mousepad, of course, that's the hybrid. They're going for that unique design, but that really depends on the surface of the mouse. And as we said here, 2 of the 4 mice, both from Logitech and Aorus, didn't really do well on that mousepad. 2 of the other 2 did okay, but I still much preferred a cloth mouse mat, and I always have. It doesn't get much better. And so when you're getting to that level now in 2019, peripherals aren't getting a whole lot better, and so there's not much room for improvement. And so we are getting down to things like these videos where I am nitpicking, but that's because I already have gear on my desk that I'm so accustomed to, and it does a very good job. And I need it to do a good job. Otherwise, you guys aren't gonna be getting the content out as much as it usually comes out. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of the Aorus jumping into the peripherals market. They asked me to take a look at it, and I did. Of course, I really like Aorus's graphics cards, Gigabyte's graphics cards. Their motherboards, the BIOS, hopefully they've done an overhaul on that, but I'll take a look at that when they maybe got their X570s coming out, so stay tuned for that. And with that said, I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. And if you're enjoying the content enough, make sure to hit that sub button, bell notification, and if you want the inside scoop before it even hits YouTube's loop, Tech Yeah City on Instagram. Love each and every one of you. Look forward to catching you in the next tech video. Peace out for now. Bye.